Hey guys, hi, Bryson here. Welcome to my show. And by the way, student loan debt is crazy. However, if you try to become a doctor or a surgeon, well, that's even more crazy, okay? However, this guy right here for this video owes $500,000 in student loan debt. And he is a spine surgeon. But tell me, he makes a lot of money. Yeah. But today we're going to find out exactly what his plan is as far as paying off all this debt. And by the way, if you ever get in this type of mess, the answer is what you want to do is grab all the extra money you have and put it towards the debt and pay it off as fast as possible. That way you are done with it, okay? But by the way, if I owed $500,000 in student loan debt, it'll be crazy, okay? I don't think I could breathe. However, he owes that much money, but he also has a really good job, okay? So let's see exactly what this looks like from a real person right here. And by the way, if you guys are new here, I post videos every single day, so make sure to also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified. On top of that, also destroy the like button. All right, let's see what's going on.
So a lot of people have been asking for updates on my student loans. I've made previous videos.
All right, so basically, not his first video on student loan debt. So I'm guessing, it's my first time watching him though, right? I'm guessing that so far, he's made some progress, right? In some way, because he's been making constant videos about it, so let's see.
About my plans for my student loans, and I made another update about a month ago about my plans with everything going on with the pandemic and
And by the way, pandemic is real, right? But also during the pandemic is also very special because basically student loans aren't charging you any interest, okay? And by the way, guys, just so you guys know, when you owe $500,000, $500,000, even for example, they charge, for example, 5% just on interest, well, multiplied by 0.05%, that's an extra $25,000 in interest every single year. So you got to tackle this now while, there's no interest whatsoever. So yeah.
I came up with a plan, which was to be very aggressive, to live like a resident, and to pay off all of my student loans, which is around $500,000, which is...
And by the way, I wonder though, okay, let me just go on Google real quick and search up how much money does a spinal surgeon, I can't spell for anything, make. All right, how much money does, what? The American Medical Group Association, according to research, spine surgeons make around $688,000 a year. That's an insane amount of money. That's almost $1 million every single year.
Hello, my dudes. My name is...
Oh my... Well, this is the wrong video. But that's an insane amount of money. $688,000 a year by being a spinal surgeon, and he still has his debt? Why? Now this just got interesting.
Just bananas. And pay that off in 2 years. But then COVID hit. Pandemic.
Oh yeah, 2 years. Wow, not even 1 year. 1 year.
A lot of people lost their jobs. Contracts were canceled. A lot of surgeons couldn't do surgery, so they're...
Oh yeah, that is interesting, right? Because, like the nurses had a lot of work, right? But then surgeries and so on, that was a little bit more difficult. It's always interesting, when you get hit with something and you have this lifestyle, it brings you back to reality. Can I actually afford it? It shows you everything.
Income was cut, significant amounts. People have died during this pandemic, so a lot of things have changed, and I had to kind of...
Where's this guy looking at? I just noticed this whole video, I'm looking at him, but he's not looking at the camera. Pro tip here, if you watch this video, Antonio, you want to look at the camera. I just noticed, what is he looking at?
Re-strategize my plan for my student loans, and I put out another video, and I'll put that right up here, about my last update in terms of what my plans were. And just as a quick recap of that video, I talked about, instead of paying it off in 2 years, I was going to pay it off in 4 years. So it just...
Interesting. So 4 years. So it's a lot of money, right, guys? It's like $125 a year. But if he is making, for example, $500,000 a year or $600,000 a year, but maybe he's not that active, so I understand that also, but if he's making a lot of money, he can just knock it out the park. What does he really need, right? He needs like an apartment He needs an emergency fund for like 6 months, but then he's good to go, right? He can just get a job, whatever. That's what I would probably do. That was what I'd probably do. Like, have an emergency fund taken care of, like in case anything happens to me for 6 months, and then just like live like a resident. Not really like these doctors spend a lot of money. Like basically just get like a beater car, a normal car, and basically rent an apartment for like $1,000 a month, and just call it a day. Just call it a day.
Extended an additional 2 years, which is still good. You see some physicians who are out 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years, and they're still paying off their student loans.
This is true. This is true. But you gotta compare yourself to yourself.
That is absolutely not going to be me. I want to be very aggressive, attack these student loans, pay it off, and be done with it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Antonio.
So, since my last video, you know, not much has changed.
By the way, I'm still freaking out. Like, what is he looking at? Yeah, it's freaking me out. Like, what is this guy looking at?
I'm about 6 months, a little over 6 months into practice. So I started practice in
Oh, so he just started practice.
September 2000.
Or, because I saw like his channel, like a little bit of it, and they said basically like he started his own private practice. So is he like what is he doing exactly? It's so confusing when you don't know what's going on.
20, and up to this point, you know, a lot of things have changed with the pandemic, as we talked about. People are still losing their jobs. You know, people are taking significant hits in terms of their income.
I would think that basically, I get the thing like, hey, people are losing their jobs, whatever. But I would think, in the medical field especially, you would still be able to make a lot of money, right? Because it's all about medical things right now, right? So I don't quite understand what the point is to this conversation.
But the problem is, in private practice, you still have to pay your overhead. You still have to pay your employees. You still have to pay for your office space, all of the equipment that you use.
It's interesting. It's interesting how this guy graduates and automatically goes, for example, into his own private practice, right? And he has to pay for everything that he actually has, right? My advice would probably be like, if I just graduated, for example, as an accountant, right? Would I want to go out there and start my own firm like ASAP and I cannot really afford it? The answer would be no. Like, I would want to work for somebody else first, right? Get all that money, cover all my loans, get all the experience, and then basically, once I have all the experience, go into, hey, now I'm going to go ahead and start my own practice, right? And for this guy, that would have been like around 2 years, right? 2-3 years, and he would have been solid. But now he has his own practice. Now he's worried about it.
Still have to pay that. And for orthopedic surgery, the average overhead across the country, and this varies by practice group and whether you're employed or academic or private practice, it's around $30,000 to $40,000 per month, which means you have.
Whoa, $30,000 to $40,000 per month. So on top of making whatever money he's making, now he has this entire massive spending, right? It's insane, right? That's why usually when you first start off, like you want to work on somebody else's dollar, pay off all your debt, now you're clean, and then you start your business, right? With some money on the side so you can take care of things, right? At least 6 months worth. But this looks like a massive risk to me. That's what it looks like.
You have to pay this by yourself.
Yes, by yourself. When you have a business, that's how it works. It's by yourself. Nobody's going to help you.
Before you can take anything home. And when there is a pandemic and when there is a elective case shutdown where you can't operate.
Okay, so now I see where his big problem is going, right? He's saying, look, there's a shutdown. I can't operate. I started this entire like private practice. I still have all this overhead, but I can't operate. If I can't operate, there's no income. But I still have expenses, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. I get it though. I understand. But that's why I wouldn't have started my practice just yet.
Well, you can't generate income and you still have to pay that overhead. So if you
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
can't operate for 1 month, you can't generate any income, then you just have to pay out of your own pocket $40,000. Some people take out loans to pay that.
And by the way, yeah, so imagine that, right? That's why I would have recommended, hey, Antonio, work for somebody else, right? On their dollar in their practice, right? They get whatever expenses they have, but you're still making money and you're still getting paid, right? And then you pay off your student loan debt, then you're good to go, right? But he took on those liability and also all the prospects for profits, but in this case, it just didn't go his way.
Other people may have savings. So this is kind of one of the downsides of being in private practice. I have another video talking about the practice.
This guy has a lot of videos that he's plugging in, man. Okay.
Models, academics, private practice, employed positions, and I'll put that right up here. But when you're in private practice, you got to generate income to be able to...
In any business, there's always generation of income. Like on YouTube, right? I have an employee now, right? And that's, well, a contractor, and that's Danny, my editor. If I'm not getting paid money, I still got to pay him, right? It's business, right? It's just how it works. But do I want to hire Danny when I'm just getting started? Or do I want to hire Danny once everything is picked up? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The idea is you don't get into business until you're good to go.
Pay your bills and also make a living. So what?
And yeah, he still have to like make a living too, right? Because cover all his expenses.
With all of that going on with the pandemic and the stress that goes along with it, and trying to meet your overhead and see, generate enough income, and also
how is he generating income though?
Be productive. I decided to just be very conservative this entire year. And by that, I mean, essentially not really spending any of the income that I get from my main job as a physician.
And by the way, that is understandable, right? Because if I have debt, but I have a very small sum of income, right? It's kind of scary. Because if I pay this debt and then I have a problem, because I'm also a business owner, it's an issue, right? That's why you want to have an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months. That will give you confidence to operate in when it comes to, for example, like taking off that debt. But really conservative would be like, hey, maybe I want to close this practice down. It's tough, right? It's hard. And maybe I might just want to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to work for somebody else for now until I'm done with my student loan debt. And then I can start everything off the right way. But this guy makes so much money, man. It's ridiculous. Well, not ridiculous. He earned it, right? $688,000, and it definitely cost him, right? $500,000. Wow.
All that money is being saved. Not really touching any of that money, and just making sure that if something happens in the next 2 to 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, that I'm prepared for that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Antonio. But once you have enough for 6 months, just move on, right? Just start paying off that debt.
If I can't operate or can't see patients, well, I still have a lump sum of money where I can pay my overhead, pay for my employees, because you're going to have to make a decision whether you pay for your employees and they don't have an income.
And by the way, I'm going to be very realistic here. Some businesses choose to keep operating, right, when they're not profitable, in order to basically keep employees making money, right? You hear me, guys? I'm saying that if my business is not making me any money and I keep people on staff because basically I don't want to let them go, that's also hurting them in a way, right? Because it's basically saying, hey, you get paid, but it's going to stop some way somehow. And then you have a problem, right? Sometimes as a business owner, you have to be like, hey, we can't afford this anymore. We're going to have to let you go. I remember, for example, when I was in college, the college cut around almost half its staff. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But they had to do it. Sometimes you have to do those things.
Or you can continue paying for their salary, their insurance, and all those things. You still have to pay for your office space. You can't go up to the
landlord,
the office kind of building manager and say, hey, I haven't been here in a month. I don't want to pay. No, you signed a contract. You have to pay for your office space.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, at least with the pandemic, there's more flexibility with that stuff. But yeah, it's insane. Imagine having a business. You just got a business, and you've been 6 months, and you've been closed down, but you still got to pay. Restaurants in Manhattan had to do with this.
I just came up with a plan, and just going to be very conservative, preserve as much as possible. And you hear about people, making investments in Bitcoin and
yeah. I don't like that. I don't like it at all.
Other types of investments, but I've just been very conservative this entire 6 to 7 months in practice.
By the way, the good thing is that basically, right, I think he's being very conservative because basically right now there's no interest on the student loans, right? Most likely. But when they do start back up, that's $25K a year and just basically just like interest. So for right now, yeah, be conservative, but just save the money you need. And then just go into basically, hey, I gotta plumb this like student loan down.
So that brings me to my point of kind of an update on my student loans.
I still can't get over, like, what is he looking at, bro? I still can't get over this.
With the coronavirus, the pandemic, that there's been a suspension or deferment of interest rates.
Yeah, you just mentioned that when it comes to student loan debt forbearance.
First, it was extended to January 2000.
And by the way, this is a sign to pay them off now, not to wait longer periods of time to pay them.
2021. And then when January came around, they extended it to September 31st, 2021.
Now, yeah. Now it's until September, right? I think it's until September or October now again. Yeah, September 30th. Yeah.
So for federal student loans, it's 0% interest. This does not apply to private loans. So
whoa, it is true. I wonder if he also has private student loans. Most likely, yeah, with like $500,000. Most likely, maybe. So he's still, maybe like a portion of this is still gonna hit with some interest.
So most private loans are in the interest rate of, 10% to 15%.
10 to 15%. It's more like, I think it's more like 7 to 11%. That's what I would say.
15%. So that's a lot of money. And when you're making payments, when you're out in practice making payments, most of that money is going to interest. So
yeah, that's why you never want to pay the minimum, right? You never want to pay the minimum on none of this stuff, man, because that's what they want. Hey, just pay the minimum. Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. It's not gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine for them. They're getting a lot of money from you, but not for you.
It may be, years before you even touch the principal if you're just making some minimum payments or a little bit above minimum.
Yep.
So my initial plan was to refinance my student loans and to get it down to a lower interest rate. And
I'm guessing he also has private. Yeah, he's saying, hey, I also have private loans because I want to refinance them. He have federal loans. He'd be like, okay, I just want to keep it because it's no interest right now.
Also to attack him, but with these 0% interest, I decided to hold off, postpone my refinancing until September 31st, 2021.
Interesting.
Or until they take away the 0% interest. It makes no sense right now for me to.
It does make a lot of sense, right? Because right now, I think he has some form of income, right? Because he's still paying his employees, right? Right now, man, this guy has to make a decision, right? Do you keep your practice open that's not getting any money, or do you work for somebody else and maybe later on reopen your practice, right? That's what you want to decide here. And if you do have money and you're not being charged interest, right now is the best time to go ahead and pay that loan off because basically there's no interest. All the money you get goes towards the principal. That's what you want, right? But it's kind of like, but I have these employees and I have this business that I got, I don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah, it's tough when you got it like that.
Refinance because it's 0%. Even though with Common Bond, it's a company that I want everyone to check.
Dr. Webb has partnered with Common Bond.
Out. It's a company that I trust, and I vetted and went through lots of different various companies, and this company actually.
Rates started at 1.97% with autopay. I love how these people have these little promotional rates, and when you apply, they're like, oh yeah, 7%, 8%. I get this all the time. Like, hey, you know what? We can refinance it for this much, but the average person gets it for this much. It's kind of like to get you in the door, but when you apply, it's different.
Has the same values and missions as mine. So, the Common Bond company, they don't charge you anything. There's no extra fees that are added into your loan. So if you
is this an ad? I don't know if it's an ad.
Refinance, $100,000. Your new loan is going to be for $100,000. It's not going to be $105,000
because the whole loan origination fee and all this nonsense they charge you.
Extra charges and fees. There's no fees, extra charges whatsoever associated with refinancing with them. They also give a lot of money back to other countries. There's Pennsylvania.
All right, so this is basically an ad. I want to go ahead and skip through this.
So we students have a little bit and so many interest if you're talking about federal loans. If you're talking about privates, even more than that. So apply and put as much money towards your student loans right now, if possible. Or you can do like what I am doing right now, just preserving as much as possible. Just build.
You gotta preserve just like 3 to 6 months, bro. Like the preserving stuff is cool until it's not cool, right? Even myself right now, right? I have $20K to pay off my student loan debt. Makes me feel good, right? It's such a big amount compared to his, right? But $20,000 in my case for like my student loan debt, and I have that money in cash to pay it off when it stops charging interest. But I'm still having money there, so when the time comes, I can pay it off in full, not refinance, right? The point is, I pay it off in full no matter what.
Building that bank so that if something happens again, you're prepared for it. And everybody's situation is a little bit different in terms of their income level, in terms of how comfortable they are, in terms of investing. And some people may not be paying anything towards their student loans right now.
I don't think anyone with this amount of debt or any debt should really be investing. Your priority should be like, hey, let me get rid of this debt and have some money on the side for emergencies. Once you're done with that, you get into more investing. But for the moment, you have no business in that stuff.
But they're investing. They're making money with in the stock.
It's easy to make money in the stock market right now, but what is going to happen when things are not that easy?
Stock market. A lot of people made a lot of money.
Some people made a lot of money. And a lot of people also lost a lot of money. Because by the way, the stock market is I sell, you buy. So someone else at the end of that trade. So someone lost money. But no one talks about that. It's all about, hey, we made so much money, but who lost money, right? That's what's important.
Since the pandemic started in the stock market. But for me, I just wanted to preserve. So I know that I may be missing out on...
You're not missing out on anything, bro. Just finish your student loan debt.
A lot of potential income and revenue. But for me...
This guy looks super young, man. This guy's like 33, 35. Maybe like in his early 30s, right? Early 30s. Like, stop focusing on all this investing stuff, man. Just focus on paying off this debt. And then you have such a high income to be investing as much money as you want, just like that, right? The problem is a lot of these guys, they spend so much money, and that's where the problem comes. Imagine like having a $600,000 income per year. It's a lot of money to invest, right?
Hey, just having that mindset or that confirmation that I don't have the potential to lose money in the stock market. It's a good chance that you can build and also save and generate income from buying and selling stocks. But for me, I just didn't want to.
It's all long term, man. I think Antonio is right here. Just don't get involved right now. But when you do start investing, invest for the long term. And by the way, one thing I've learned is basically you can be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. It does not mean you know anything about investing. There are two different fields, okay? So that's why I understand he's coming from a place of ignorance. But when you do invest for the long run. It's not about buying and selling. It's about buying and holding, like index funds and so on. Because you're obviously not going to be like investing like full time, right? So just usually index funds are going to be great for you.
Take any chances. And I had a rough kind of, start to practice because of some things that happened financially because of COVID-19. So I'm just a little PTSD about that. But if you have private loans, I suggest that...
Alright guys, so I think this video is about to end right here because Antonio is just going over and over again about the private loans and all this stuff, and I get all that stuff, right? And then go to the Common Bond website and then you register there, you do this there. But overall, my advice would be this. If I owed $500,000 in student loan debt and I had a failing practice, because basically I don't make no money and I can't afford it right now, I would have to pick like, hey, do I close a practice, work for someone else, use all that money, pay off my loans, because basically I don't have any overhead anymore, right? Then I'm basically loan clear, debt free. Now, if I want to open up a practice, let me save up 6 months worth of expenses, 1 year worth. That way, when I do start this time, I'm actually good to go no matter what, right? Or do I keep the practice open? It keeps taking money out of my pocket, right? But in reality, if I do make some money, save up 3 to 6 months worth for the whole business and the whole expenses, and then just focus on, hey, I'm gonna grab this money and pay off all my debt, right? But it's all about, one is more selfish. I say, I'm done with this practice, I move on, later on, I reopen. One is more selfless, but also more risky and also a little bit dumb. Oh, I keep the prices open, all those not working, but if it does work out, then I'll be good to go. But if it doesn't work out, well, I lost a ton of money. I still owe a ton of money. And on top of that, these people also lost their job, right? So it's all about what you're willing to do. Overall, it's a choice that I, thankfully, do not have to make. But if I was in his shoes, I would strongly consider, I'm going to go ahead and work for someone else for right now. That would be probably the better choice, right? Save up money for emergencies, do everything correctly, and then when I'm ready, I start my own practice. But sometimes people just don't like working for other people. I get that, but sometimes you have to, okay? That's my advice right there. Or do your own practice and at the same time have a side hustle with another like job, and that we can pull in money from there. I heard about some guy doing that. he had his own private practice, but he also worked for somebody else's, and that way he had money coming in, okay? And when that money equaled the amount he actually made, he quit that, okay? That's what you have to do in this case. Well, you actually have 3 choices now, okay? But overall, guys, comment down below and let me know, what do you think about owing $500,000 in student loan debt? Comment down below, let me know. I'll see you guys tomorrow. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified. If you guys want to text me, join me on Patreon, or send me a DM on Instagram at Bryson. And before I go, if you want to watch another video, here's a video right here, include my picture here. See you guys tomorrow, and as always, peace.